Signore e signori, buonasera. Welcome to Casa Italiana Zerilli-marimò of New York University. Of course, it's a virtual welcome to a much larger space than our physical casa. We're still here, as you know, for the semester. And today's event is particularly dear to me because it was one of the first that we were forced to cancel last spring when everything shut down. And we were finally able to bring it to you virtually. But we were just saying before that it doesn't mean that what we do virtually cannot be repeated, enhanced, improved live whenever that will be possible. Today's event is part of the series Addressing Style, conceived by Eugenia Paulicelli and Grazia D'Annunzio, and one of the co-founders and curator of the series, Grazia D'Annunzio, is here with us, and she will be hosting the conversation with Simona Segre Reinach about Biki. And I have to say that it's one of these events that is born out of another event. At the end of a very spirited conversation between Valerie Steele, the director of the museum at the Fashion Institute of Technology, and Grazia at the Casa, we were having a really lovely dinners, one of those things that you really miss right now. And Valerie was suggesting to invite Simona to the Casa to present the book about Biki. Of course, Grazia knew of the book and knew Simona. I didn't. So that's how the event started, and that's how our cultural programs originate, one from the other in a very natural and very smooth way. So I'm delighted that we have this conversation this evening. You'll understand what a central character Biki was in the cultural, social, and artistic scene of Milan, and not only of the 20th century. And I'm delighted that it's going to be Grazia to lead this conversation. Just a couple of words to introduce Grazia to you. She's right now a professor at the Università Statale in Milan, and she teaches fashion journalism. But for many years, she was the bureau chief of Vogue Italia in New York, and that's how we started collaborating with her. We have done lots of great programs with Grazia, and we have one that we're very proud of. We are working on right now, and it's going to be an alphabet of fashion. More to know when we are ready, but we are. After a long planning and brainstorming and exchange of ideas, I think we're ready to launch a great product. We're going to give you all the details when we are ready, but it's going to be very soon. So stay tuned for Italian Fashion from A to Z with Grazia D'Annunzio. It's going to be her new series for us, exclusively for us, Casa Italiana Zerilli-marimò at New York University. And without further ado, I'm asking you to virtually welcome Grazia D'Annunzio and her guest, Simona Segre Reinach. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Stefano, for your lovely words. And all of you for being here with us today. And I'm very honored and privileged to welcome at NYU's Casa Italiana Zerilli-marimò Professor Segre Reinach. Professor Segre is a cultural anthropologist who teaches fashion studies at University of Bologna in Italy. And with her, as you know, we are going to talk about Elvira Leonardi Bouyeure, also internationally known as Biki. And here we have a picture of her in the early 50s. Biki was a Milanese couturier who became very famous, especially because she dressed Maria Callas from the mid-50s until her death in the late 70s. And because it's linked to my personal family, my ancestor, I would like to briefly explain to you the origin of this name, Biki, B-I-K-Y, which is obviously a nickname. Biki was the step-granddaughter of the composer Giacomo Puccini. And Puccini used to call her originally Birichina, which means mischievous. And then Puccini turned the name in Biki, and then he shortened it up in Biki, B-I-C-H-I. And then along came one of Puccini's best friend, Gabriele D'Annunzio, my ancestor, who decided to add a K and give a more exotic turn to this nickname. So here we have Biki, B-I-K-I, and Biki loved that. And we have the logo, one of her logo here, photographed from the 40s. Biki, B-I-K-Y, became the name that she became famous for. Professor Segre is author of several books on fashion. And the last one that she wrote, here we have the cover, is one published by Rizzoli, and by the way, is also available in English, and it's devoted to Biki, and it's interesting for a couple of reasons. First of all, because in the history of Italian fashion, Biki's contribution has been often underestimated, and therefore a book on her was quite high on demand. And the second reason is because this is the first scholarly book, a scholarly study on Biki. Professor Segre Reinach was in fact able to dig into Biki's archive in Milan. And this is finally the first question that I have to ask you, Simona. How did you become interested in Biki? And how long did it take to put this book together?
Thank you, Grazia, and thank you so much to you and to Stefano for inviting me, although virtually. I'm really so happy to be here at Casa Italiana Zerilli-Marimò. It's such a pleasure. Yes, as you said, I'm a fashion scholar, so I decided to research the life and work of Biki, Elvira Leonardi, despite she was an innovator and a really relevant character in the history of Italian fashion. She hasn't been researched properly and scholarly. The second reason is the long career she had, because she was born in 1906 and she died in 1999. So she witnessed a long period, much before Italian fashion was invented, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And she died when Milano had become already a fashion capital. So it is something really interesting to work. I had the possibility to work in the paper archive of Biki, in the apartment where Biki herself lived, and where now lives Jacques Reynaud, the nephew of Biki. He's a costume designer. He works for Bob Wilson, and he gave me the possibility to really be there to analyze all the documents that are in the paper archive. And suddenly all the relevant names that made Italian fashion, and this is really interesting because the names were already very international, were there in the archive. So artists, industrialists, journalists, all these people left messages, drawings, notes, and Biki herself kept all the letters she has written. She kept the copies of the letters she has written. So I could reconstruct one of the most peculiar makeup of Italian fashion. Also, mm-hmm. because Biki was not only a couturiere and a dressmaker, but she also held columns in journals like Corriere d'Informazione, La Stampa. She gave her advice about style. And you know, Grazia, how important is this, yes, to give advice and not only dresses. So she started, yes, to be both things, a dressmaker and a great advisor.
And that was very ahead of her time. I'm thinking of someone different, totally different, Dorothy Draper, who was a very famous interior decorator, and she was American, and she was the first interior decorator who had, she had a very strong sense of self-promotion, and she was on TV, but before that on radio, and before that on papers, on newspapers and the weekly magazine, to give, advices to how to decorate the new living room or the kids' room. So Biki was really ahead of her time, because it's the first time, I think, that we have a couturier who has a column, and she also where she advises people to dress properly. Yes. So now let's introduce Biki to our audience. We have a couple of pictures. Here is Biki, very little, with her mother, And the second one is Biki when she was 4 years old with Giacomo Puccini, her step grandfather. So how can you tell me, what can you tell us about the upbringing and the family, the upbringing that Biki received and the family that she's that she's from? She comes from.
Yes, this is, Biki was born in Milano into a family of culture and music with high society relations. She was the granddaughter, as you said, of Italian composer Giacomo Puccini. Actually, Puccini was her step-grandfather, being the second husband of her grandmother, Elvira. But Puccini was always very close to Biki. It was him who gave her, as you said, her nickname, Biki, later transformed with a key. And it was also through him and through his circle of relations that she was introduced to Milano La Scala entourage, to Paris fashion scene, ever since early childhood. And in these pictures that you mentioned, you can see a baby Biki with her mother, Fosca Leonardi, another very strong woman. She also made a second lucky marriage at a very late age. She married Mario Crespi, industrialist in cotton mills, and owner of Corriere della Sera, the most prestigious journal in Italy. And in the other picture, you see Biki sporting a marine hat from Cioccio Sam, the yacht that Puccini bought after the success of his opera, Madame Butterfly. And you can tell the close relationship they had from this picture.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And we also have another lovely photograph of Biki in her, when she was a teenager, swimming in the Mediterranean. And this is a picture that was, we don't see the beach, but is the beach of Viareggio. So Viareggio plays an important role in Biki's early life, right?
Yes. Milano, Paris, Venice, but most of everything in these early years is Viareggio in Versilia. It was the family holiday resort, and at the time it was a real international location for high society holidays. And it is there that she met people as Isadora Duncan, Eleonora Duse, and most of all, Gabriele D'Annunzio, because it was Gabriele D'Annunzio, the poet, that suggested her the name of her first business enterprise. Not only he gave the name Biki, but also he gave the name of the first adventure in the fashion business of Biki.
And we have we're going to arrive at that, at this chapter quite soon, but we have another picture for our audience, and is the Biki in Venice, another important city of her life, as you mentioned before. Biki in Venice in the 20s. You can see how chic and stylish she is. She looks like a perfect French, young woman. And Biki's love of fashion started very, very early in her life. And when she was, in her, 20s, around 1934, she designed a line of lingerie. And then you're going to explain everything to us, because this is an interesting chapter, a very unknown chapter of her long career. Her lingerie line, kind of sexy. Please.
Yes, the picture you mentioned is a very beautiful one, because you can see really how chic she was and how she was really, how she intended to work into this sector, not just as a hobby, but as something that she wanted to do. And I can really quote her own words. She says, "When I first got started, I had a revolutionary idea. This was really very new. I would create nightgowns as though they were evening gowns. It was almost a scandal. those low-necked, see-through gowns were unbelievably sexy and had taken the place of grandmother's long cotton sleepwear. So you see, this was a real innovation, and the whole career of Biki was about innovations. I can tell you some of the clients that wanted her dresses.
Lingerie, sexy lingerie.
Lingerie, yes. The future Queen of Italy, Maria José from Belgium, and many actresses of the cinema of the 30s, the so-called telefoni bianchi.
Yes, the white telephone.
It was, that it was inspired by Hollywood films of the epoch, and with actors in Italy like Isa Miranda, that I think she's also well known in the United States. She opened this venture of Domina. No, the name was Domina, given by D'Annunzio, with a friend, the Countess Gina Cicogna, and they had a lot of success, but she didn't want to stop here.
But the fact that, for instance, she was, from a very prominent family. I mean, back in the 30s, very few women used to work. So it was a kind of a scandal in the family, or not, apart from the sexy lingerie line that she started in design. But how the family reacted to this decision? Do we know that?
In the beginning, though, because she's very clear about it. In the beginning, her family didn't want her to do it, but more they didn't take her seriously. So what could have happened to other young girls like her, or young ladies, young women, would have been to stop and get married. She got married, but she didn't stop. She was so strong, and so she had such a self-esteem that despite the family and the time were not for her, were not in favor of her, she kept on doing what she had in mind.
In fact, that's very true. In fact, in 1936, Biki decided, 1936 is a very important year for Biki, because this is the year when she opens an atelier in Via Senato in Milan, which is in the heart of the downtown area in Milan, is in the heart of the city, very close to the cathedral, very close to Piazza San Babila. And she opened her couture house, designing clothes that were really heavily inspired by the French couture. And that seems a little bit of not a little bit, that seems a contradiction, thinking that we are in the, during the fascist time, and during the Mussolini's self-sufficient, program, the autarky, where everything from abroad was prohibited. So fabrics, clothes, even idea were not allowed to be imported. And not to mention that in the vocabulary, in the Italian vocabulary, all the French and foreign names were banned. And Biki, in that period, has to change again her name to the original one, B-I-C-H-I, because the letter K, was too exotic and not common in our vocabulary. So although Biki herself thought to be obedient to the fascist law, the lure of French fashion really put a spell on her early style. So how you can explain this contradiction?
Yes, well, I wouldn't Biki wouldn't call it a contradiction. We might see this as a contradiction, but she didn't. She kept these two ideas: great affection for Milano, her own hometown. She always loved Milano a lot, and she was rewarded by the city of Milano, of course. But she also loved Paris a lot, And she didn't see any contradiction. She kept on doing this double thing. On the one hand, using French fashion, buying a lot of items from France. And on the other hand, she had in mind that an Italian fashion had to be established. And she did both without, not without contradiction, but with some ambivalence, but without feeling a contradiction in this.
Okay, we have the next picture. Biki, freshly married. Okay, Biki's love of French culture, French fashion, French lifestyle culminated always in 1936 with a marriage with, of course, a French antique dealer, but a French gentleman called Robert Bouyeure. And we have Biki now, after the wedding, getting out of the church, and she's wearing a wonderful dress that it was French indeed. So she married with a French couture dress. Can you tell us a little bit about this dress?
Yes, in 1936, as you said, is a very important year for Biki. She married an antique dealer, Robert Bouyeure, who helped her a lot when during the war he was in France and she was in Milano, sending her letters and items for her boutique. Here you can see the day of the wedding, and the dress is by Lucien Lelong. Lucien Lelong was a famous couturier, and he was also the president of the Chambre syndicale de couture, and he was the one who saved French couture from the German Nazi attempt to transport either in Vienna or in Berlin the whole couture industry. So this dress was really an important one, and it was published in 1936 on the Woman's Wear Daily in the US. I want to quote, I don't know if I have the time, I would like just to quote what Biki said about Paris, because I think that these words are so relevant to understand her love for Paris and how she was into this atmosphere. She said, in Paris, I learned everything. To have a weak voice, but one that could at times be provocative. A gaze that was directly appealing, supreme elegance in my gestures, walking, the refined movement of the fingers, the ability to show both warmth and aloofness, vulnerability and severity. So you see that ambivalence, she loved ambivalences.
Absolutely.
And you can tell from these words as well.
So here we have two pictures of Biki in the 40s. Can you briefly describe Biki's personal style?
Yes. Here you can see how feminine, in the first one, in the 40s, you can see how feminine she was with this bow. That is something that she likes all through her career. We will see later with the dresses. The pearl necklace, the gesture, the posture of the hand, the gaze. I think that Biki gaze is something we should always take into account, because you find it everywhere. It could be a picture, it could be a portrait, it could be a photograph. It is always staged. She's always on stage, Biki, and you can tell this from the 40s. And also her style is very clear from this picture. It's elegant, but also simple. It's something that she always tried to match, simplicity and elegance. She was a very practical lady, I would say. In the second one, Here is at a party with Bali Toscanini, her best friend at the time. And again, you can see the stole, you can see the necklace, you can see the gaze, and you can tell the beautiful dresses she was wearing, and the kind of allure that she always put forward during the years. I think it's a very nice picture, this one.
And Wally is actually wearing a Biki dress. And Wally, yes, Wally, Wally Toscanini is Toscanini, the famous director,
daughter,
opera director, Arturo Toscanini, and was, as you told us before, Biki's best friend. And so they went to La Scala together, they travel a lot together, they share the same kind of upbringing.
They went together to Paris very often, so the two of them.
I would like to have a friend. I would like to have had a friend and going to Paris to go shopping, back in the 70s when I was a young girl, but doesn't matter. I can survive. Now we have a picture of the Italian magazine Marie Claire. We are in 1950, and we have a model wearing Biki. It's really interesting because we are in the 50s. A year later, in 1951, the Italian fashion will be born, and with this, first défilé in Florence at Villa Torreggiani, Giambattista Giorgini's private house. And in that year, Biki will not be present, will not show her creation. Well, I mean, it's not with the group of couturieres that, Giorgini invited. So how come? How can you explain that?
This is a very interesting question. Looking at Biki's biography, I would say that she started even before, because it's true, she wasn't present in 1951, although later she was close friend of Giorgini and they collaborated. But in 1941, she was presenting her models during a clothing fashion show, autarkic. I don't know if this has a meaning in English. It means the fashion that was put forward during the years of Mussolini. Yes, she was at another event quite relevant at the Grand Hotel Dolder in Zurich, devoted to Italian fashion, and this was in 1946. So you see, she was, in a way, in her own way, presenting Italian fashion in her own way. So in the Marie Claire is 1950. So it's one, as you said, it's 1 year before the first fashion show. And it is in this cover, it is mentioned the elegance with simplicity, revealing a perfect line. So they knew already this kind of Italian attitude towards fashion that then was put forward by many other designers, of course.
Next picture is a story that the Parisian news magazine Paris Match, the weekly magazine Paris Match, dedicated to Biki the same year, 1951, when Italian fashion was born. It was called La Biki, Premier Client de la Mode. Biki, La Biki, the first client of fashion. And this is very interesting because this is the story consecrated, in a way, Biki's love, eternal love of French fashion. So, we have no time to read all the article, but you discover it in Biki's archive. So tell us a little bit more about this love and why they call her Premier Client de la Mode, first client of la mode, which means French couture.
Okay. This is quite an extremely important article. It's the first time that a French magazine devotes 3 pages to an Italian couturiere. Why? Because she was buying 50% of her dresses from Paris. So she bought more than any other, I would say, and that's why they described her as French. In the article, say in Paris, she's not out of place. She's like a Parisian. She married a Frenchman. It was as if in 1951, the year that Italian fashion was born, against French fashion, actually, La Biki was considered a French couturiere. But she wasn't just that.
Biki was also a very good friend of Monsieur Dior. And here we have a picture of Dior with a nice dedication to Biki. And Biki was also a client of Dior, right?
Totally. She went to see most of his défilé, and in the paper archive, you find them, or with her handwriting, deciding what to buy, what to change, what to order, and or just to get ideas. So she went often, and they were close friends. There are a lot of evidence of this close relationship between the two. Yeah, definitely.
And Biki loved Dior so much that she even chose René Gruot, who was working back then in that period for Dior's advertising, for Dior's ads. René Gruot was a very famous French illustrator. Biki chose him to have one of her portraits done. Actually, Gruot made several portraits of Biki, and this is one of this picture. And we see Biki posing for René Gruot. Biki loved to be portrayed.
She loved to be portrayed. Yes, she had several portraits, and it's not by chance that 3 portraits were made by René Gruot, precisely because he was a famous illustrator. He worked for Lucien Lelong, Jean Patou, Dior, Givenchy. And here he's not an illustrator, he's a painter, an artist. And again, can you see the posture of the hands, the gaze, and already the kind of the relevance of the headwear, the necklace, and the gaze, always the gaze.
The gaze. I think that we have to introduce another important person in Biki's life. And this is this picture of Jacques Fat and Alain Renaud, who eventually would play a pivotal role in Biki's business. In September 51, when she had, the fashion, the birth of Italian fashion, 1951, birth of Italian fashion, the Paris Match article, but always in that year, in the month of September, along with Christian Dior and Jacques Fat, Biki attended what it was called, and is called even right now, the ball of the century. And I'm talking about the Bestegui Ball. From the name of its host, the Baron Charles de Bestegui. And it was originally called Bar Oriental, and it took place in Venice at Palazzo Labia, which Baron Bestegui, who was a Mexican silver miner here, although he was, raised in France, bought in 1948. And 1,000 guests, think of how lavish it was. 1,000 guests were invited to dress up in wonderful costume. I think Dior was dressed up as Le Roi Soleil. And the ball was attended by la crème de la crème of the international crowd, meaning, aristocrats, millionaire artists, couturiers and couturiers. And here she met Jacques Fat young apprentice, Alain Renaud. So here we have a picture of a young Alain and Jacques Fath, and another photograph of Alain in the 60s. So tell us how Alain was important and why he was important in Biki's business.
Yes, very important. He, as you said, they met in 1951. It was introduced by Jacques Fath to Biki. Actually, Alain Reynaud was working for Jacques Fath, and also he did consultancy for Reinach in New York. He was a professional couturier. I found interesting letters in the archive considering him one of the most promising figures in the characters in the couture world. And they got immediately friends, and they started collaborated informally. From 1951 and in 1952 also, up to 1957 when he officially entered the Maison Biki. He left his previous works. He married Biki's daughter, Roberta. And at this point, Biki became a maison créatrice. It was not just a seamstress. She was already very famous, but she was lacking the couture, so to speak. And with him, they started a maison. It was called the Golden Age of Biki, starting from, it is as if she had two lives. First life, very successful, very original, very creative, the matching of colors, everything. She was really launching new ideas about it. And then with Alain, she built an Italian style with the help of a French. So you see, contaminations are always interesting in the fashion world, and not only in the fashion world. And really producing something that was for Milano so important, as we will see in a minute, because it was everything together: the style, the couture, the lifestyle, the people around them. So everything really started with the entering of Alain Reynaud in Maison Biki,
who actually play also a very important role in their relationship with Callas, as we will see later.
Yes.
Okay, in as you mentioned before, and you actually not mentioned, and you said before, Biki became la couturière, the real couturière, la créatrice de mode, from the mid-50s on. And this is when actually also the time where her style became very iconic. And here we have one photograph and three drawings that a famous illustrator, Brunetta, took of her. So tell us briefly about this iconic style of Biki. Which are the key components of this style?
The key components of this style is that finally Biki became a Milanese couturiere. And I quote her again. She says, "For Milan, I wish to claim a style of elegance on a par with the merits of this great, dear city." So what Brunetta was portraying here, and also the picture that you mentioned before, Biki in her atelier, here you can see really an international style that was also a Milanese style. And especially in the third drawing of Brunetta, the portrait,
yes.
Il ritratto di Biki, it said. And you see, this was the style of the mid-50s, the golden age of Biki, around La Scala, around the finance and the culture, the music. And in this portrait, you can tell what this young woman had become. She in this picture, in this drawing, she doesn't have to imitate France. She has somehow elaborate within her the French style to produce something that is really very Milanese. And this period was the one of a special kind of fashion around Milano that is very different from what happened, say, just few years later with the designer's fashion in the mid-70s. This picture is about gloves, elegance, the silhouette, and the importance of the headwear.
Yes.
And always the gaze again.
Yes. Also, another lovely drawings of Brunetta, who was a beloved fashion illustrator who worked a lot for many newspaper and magazine, including Corriere della Sera, our major newspaper. We have this sketch of Brunetta. Of Biki with other friends at La Scala, because Biki, as you said before, became la couturier par excellence of all the fashion lady who used to go to the opening of La Scala and used to go to the to follow, and they used to follow La Scala season, and also thanks to the success that Biki also had. Dressing La Callas from the mid-60s, from the mid-50s on.
Yeah.
And before getting to Maria Callas and their relationship, we have here some photographs of Biki style, of Biki fashion. And we can actually, through this picture, we can you should trace an evolution of Biki style that we can also will find in Maria Callas' wardrobe. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 nice photographs by Giovanni Gastel that also graced your book. One is the cover, and the others are in your book. So,
yes.
Can you please tell us something about these photographs and also Biki's, leitmotifs?
Yes. Well, Giovanni Gastel is one of the nephew of Visconti, and his mother was a client of Biki, so he knew Biki very well. That's why we asked him to capture the details of Biki styles. And in these pictures, you can tell everything, because you can see she was called the Queen of Colors. So the ways in which she put together colors and different textiles is also one of her signature. And in the first one with this bow, it is as if she was reproducing her atelier, the color of her atelier, which was with this pearl color all around the place. The second one is, as you remember, Grace, is a little bit like the Valli Toscanini dress.
With the sunflower. Yes.
Although this is a dress from the 50s.
And it's a day dress.
Yes, it is a day dress. In the third one, you really can see a lot of this stole, this plentitude, these amazing colors together, really very, very beautiful. This is a silk satin dress with the bodice with straps. It's entirely embellished with a floral theme, with color, beads and sequins. And the shawl starts from the back of the corset, and it is directly incorporated into the dress. So there is quite a lot of work in this dress. I
love also the color combination. I mean, the
color combination. Yes, they're really beautiful.
3 shades of green, and then this coral is beautiful. It is really. something.
It's really, really beautiful. And also I think that one of your favorite is the pink one.
Yes, the pink one is one of my favorite, yes.
It's one of your favorite, and it's really, we were undecided which one to put on the cover. Then this was also one that could have gone into the cover. It's a pink and black silk gros grain suit, and it is made of dress and cape, and the top of the dress has a wrap closure that creates a kind of a V neckline, and from the waist there is a very simple and clean black below skirt starts, and the cape instead is outlined by the cape sleeve. So again, there is a lot of work.
It is extremely modern. It's beautiful. And also we have another one, which is the floral dress, which is very lovely, which is the one before the pink.
Yes, this is an evening dress. This is from the 60s, and it's silk, white silk, printed with long leaves dress and a blue floral print. And the bust with the boat neckline is outlined with a very narrow waist. And from this half circle skirt long to the feet starts. So it's one of the most beautiful, I think. It's very, very nice.
Yeah, it is. It is. Also, we have three lovely drawings that Brunetta did of Biki. So can you please explain a little bit to us the relationship between this famous illustrator and Biki? Because these are for Biki. They're not for, I think that these drawings, they are not portrait of Biki or the drawings that they are meant to be published, but these are for Biki's atelier.
Yes, Grace, you're right. Brunetta, actually, Biki was the first one to give Brunetta the task to represent her catwalk shows and her models. So Brunetta, as you know, was publishing on papers, but on journals. But in this case, these were really done for her. And the first one is it's representing fully the product, whereas the other two is even more interesting. Here you can see how the two artists, because I think that Biki too was an artist, Brunetta and Biki work together, because here with just a very simple sign you can tell not only a dress, but you can tell the spirit of Biki and the wit, and also the confidence that she gained through the years, no?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I love that.
The wit.
Yes, the wit. Yes, absolutely. And I really, really like the third one, the little
monkey.
Yes, this is very hilarious.
And can you see that the signature Brunetta is close to the hand? There is everything about Biki in this drawing. I think it's beautiful. And in the archive, Grace, Jacques has hundreds of drawings of Brunetta for Biki.
Lucky him, because she was amazing. And Brunetta had these wonderful hands. And by the way, she was a great artist. Biki was another artist, very famous for her hands. And Brunetta and Biki, was not able to draw, right?
No.
Was Alain.
She uses her hands to drape, and then when Alain came, the proper croquis went in the right place, in the Maison Biki. Yes.
For the audience, the croquis is the typical drawings that you can find in all the couture houses, and sometimes the fabric that is perfect for that kind of model is staple on the drawings, and we're going to see something of them when we're going to arrive, and we're going to arrive soon to La Callas.
And very beautiful ones.
Yes. So Biki was also a very, as you already said that and underlined, Biki was very ahead of her time because look at this, two drawings, Cori tailleur and Cori soprabito. So Cori suits and Cori coat, light coat. So it was very innovative, Biki, because she was one of the first couturiers to work for the mass market in the early 60s. That was way before the invention of pret-à-porter, way before Walter Albini, way before Armani, way before Ferré and the Missoni. Before the birth of pret-à-porter, some big names, some big couture houses started to collaborate with the clothing industries. And Biki was, I think, if not the first, one of the first. And from the 60s to 1966, Biki signed a special deal with this Piedmontese manufacturer, Cori, which stands for Confezioni Rivetti. And Rivetti family was also the owners of the GFT, which is the industry that distributed Armani in the 70s and the 80s. So can you tell us a little bit about this collaboration that Biki had with the Rivetti's family?
Yes, this was quite a sound collaboration because it lasted from 1960 to 1966. Again, she didn't see any contradiction. She was the only one in Italy at the time to collaborate with the industry. Other seamstresses, her friends, didn't do it because they were convinced that pret-à-porter couldn't exist at the time. And not quite so pret-à-porter, but the industrial made fashion. Whereas she understood perfectly what fashion was about to become, and also because she was a wise businesswoman, she was also the first one to sign a joint venture with a Japanese in 1969 to produce ready-made fashion. She also had other agreements of the kind in the United States. So she really understood the relevance of the industry. And this didn't diminish on what she was doing in other
venues.
In other venues, that she kept on being the elitarian and with her circle of friends, La Scala, everything. But she understood that a good fashion was about to come, and also because she knew very well the producer of textiles in Italy. She collaborated with a lot of Italian textile producers, and she understood that Italian fashion had this opportunity to expand more if a good design was to be accompanied with a good quality product.
Excellent. Thank you. Yes, that's so true. We have here a couple of pictures of Biki arriving in New York. One is at JFK, right off the plane. And the other picture is Biki in the 60s under the Brooklyn Bridge. And I know that Biki had a special relationship with New York. So can you please tell us something about it?
Yes. After Paris and Milano, New York was certainly a city she loved a lot. Her first trip was in 1952, and the occasion was the 1st April in Paris, the famous event organized by Elsa Maxwell.
Yes.
She went with her husband Robert, and she stayed months, because at the time the journeys lasted months. She was at the Gladstone Hotel, And she had a lot of friends in the city. And in the paper archive, there are she left the diary on the cover, on the letterhead, of the Gladstone Hotel, and she it's very interesting. I can briefly read you some lines about this diary in which she tells about the frenetic life of New York. She says, lunch with Fat and Bettina Ballard, at home with Masterman, lunch with Dorothy Wallace, tea with Rita Hayworth, an appointment with Bloomingdale's, lunch at Mochezel, dinner at El Morocco. So it's quite a frantic life that she had there. She adored New York. And she was also interviewed about New York by a radio program. And they were asking her, what impressed you the most about New York? And she said, 3 things: the city lights, which are fabulous, hard to describe, because they make you feel like you are in a fairyland. And then the women, who are so beautiful and miraculously know how to put off getting old. The 3rd thing is the shop windows, the loveliest in the world. What splendor, what art. So she was really fascinated by the city. And from this kind of pioneer journey, others followed in 1953, 56, 58. And from the 60s, she went regularly twice a year to New York, April and May, September, October, every single year.
And here we are, finally, at the last part of our conversation, finally for all the Callas fans that they are here probably with us, waiting for this haha moment. So the relationship with Biki and the stars. I'm going to be brief. We have first Lucia Bosè, on the cover of this weekly Italian magazine called Tempo. We are in 1953, and Lucia Bosè was already famous for a couple of Antonioni's movies. Story of a Love Affair, Cronaca di un Amore, 1950, and La Signora Senza Camelie, The Ladies Without Camellias, which came out in 1953, the year of this cover. And we have Lucia Bosè posing with a Biki, a nightgown. The second picture is Jean Moreau. We know that Jean Moreau loved Biki, and she preferred Biki to Balenciaga, which was a very big compliment, also in real life. So she dressed Biki in real life. In this picture, Biki did the little black dress and another dress that she wore in Antonioni's La Notte in 1961. So this is a movie still. But we know that Jean Moreau also loved wearing Biki offset during her real life. Then we have Biki with Claudia Cardinale, that was fresh from the success of The Leopard, and Biki with our Sophia Loren. And here we go, La Callas and Morosini with La Callas wearing Biki. So when Callas met Biki?
Maria Callas met Biki as soon as she established in Milano, and the year was 1951, that we have already learned. It's such an important year. They met at the Toscanini house, and Biki and Alain became soon close friends. As everybody knows, Maria Callas was already a star, but she was overweight and she wasn't happy with her dresses. So Luchino Visconti also suggested that Luchino Visconti adored Maria Callas, suggested that Biki and Alain could get close to Callas. Callas lost 36 kilos in 2 years, and she transformed into the diva that we all know. And the transformation, the making of Maria Callas, it was, I want to say this, it wasn't made by them, it was made with them, because it was a mutual understanding. It was a friendship that lasted a life, and it was regulated by the love that the three of them had for beautiful dresses, for the music, for really transforming, creating yourself through your way of dressing and behaving. By 1955, the transformation was almost done. Actually, it was more than almost done. And it was the year of success for Maria at La Scala. And she ordered many clothes to them. In the beginning, it was more Meneghini, because it also Meneghini, Maria Callas' husband, was very keen on Biki's clothes and couture. So he encouraged Maria, that was still in transformation, to order more dresses. But at a certain point, she did it on her own, and it was 35 outfits in 1956 for the tournée in the US. Biki and Alain made 35 outfits for Maria Callas. And also they suggested, as we shall see in a minute in the drawings, suggested how to put them together, the combinaison. And sometimes Maria Callas wrote a note, no, I don't want this, I would like the other one. Or Alain wrote, I know you didn't ask for this, but I just made this dress having you in my mind.
Tell me if you like it or not. Yes. But what, there was a wonderful collaboration, because she was not a client, simply a client. She was a friend. And in the making of Maria Callas, Biki and Alain really strongly collaborated with La Divina, who had, a very strong presence and a very strong sense of style. What actually did Maria like about Biki? What kind of, leitmotifs we can find in La Callas' outfit that, are also Biki's leitmotifs?
Yes, concerning Biki, I think that there is this gesture that she made. That Biki was become recognized by the turban, and this is something that also the turban kind of moved to Maria Callas, and the picture you choose, it's a perfect one to. Because
exemplified,
exemplify this idea. Then there is another important thing, that both love colors and the matching of strange colors together, and also the mixing of texture. For instance, there is an interesting cloak that Biki made for her in 1958, I think. It's a black leather cloak lined with mink. Okay, so Callas loved headwear a lot, and this was also a Biki's favorite. Callas loved accessories, loves furs, most of all bags, shoes. So really, they found this common interest, this common attitudes towards the dress, that always was not just a piece of cloth, was not just a dress. It was an atmosphere. It was a way of behavior. And this for Biki. And for what Alain is concerned, he was totally inspired by Callas. And we see this because of the innumerous drawings of dresses that he did for her. At a certain point, Maria Callas won the Golden Dress brooch, which is she was chosen. She was declared among the 10 women better dressed in the world, and she was in the company of Clara Booth, Lucy, Audrey Hepburn. That was her model in the beginning. When she was fat, she had Audrey Hepburn in mind as a model. Princess Margaret, the Duchess of Windsor. And when she went in tour in the US, also she was wearing Callas all the time, of course, after the opera for the evening, organized, the party was organized for her. So she also contributed to the success of Biki and Alain. It was a mutual relationship that lasted a life, as I said, yes.
We have a little samples of La Callas wardrobe by Biki. We have a picture of, and you can see the dramatic pose of our Divina with a silk dress with a big bow, which is another, Biki staple. And there was a picture of 1955 at La Scala. And then we have 3 pictures that were published in Paris Match in 1958. La Scala posing with Biki and Alain with this long nightgown and the shawl that we will see Callas really loved, because it was part of her, let's say, persona. When she used to perform, in a concert, when she was not wearing costume, she always loved to wear shawl because she could play with them in a very dramatic way, in very theatrical way. And then we have here Maria with a light colored coat and a hat designed by Biki, of course, with Meneghini, attending the christening of Biki granddaughters Francesca at San Babila's Church in Milan in 1959. Then we have another picture of Callas wearing a fourreau, a velvet nightgown with the back that is in silk, and we can see also an interesting Biki signature. The combination of different textile, of different fabrics, and another shawl that is turquoise. And I think that you told me, Simona, that was Callas' favorite color, right?
Yes, and she matches sometimes with green. And according to Biki, it was an invention by Maria. Yes.
And then we also have another picture of Maria with one of her poodles and Biki wearing a tweed suit. And here we go. We have 4 photographs of Maria Callas wearing, of course, Biki during the summer of 1959. 1959 is an interesting, interesting year in Maria Callas' life. And this was during the summer, and she was on board of the Christina, the yacht that Aristotele Onassis owned. And she was invited by Aristotele Onassis with Meneghini, with Winston Churchill, and along, of course, with Aristotele Onassis' wife, Tina Livanos, on board of Christina for a Mediterranean cruise. And we know that at the end of this cruise, Maria Callas and Aristotele Onassis fell in love, and the rest is history. So can you tell us something about the wardrobe that Callas wore in this in this during this cruise, and we also have a couple of pictures with Tina Livanos and the rival that eventually divorced from Onassis.
Yes, Onassis in 1959 gave a party in honor of Maria Callas in London, and soon after that, in June, he invited the Meneghini to the yacht. And Maria was so thrilled, excited, and in a way also unsure of what to take with her. She wanted to have everything described, made, and organized and recorded. So they, Biki and Alain, did all the models for the cruise. And not just that, but also they have written what to put with what to wear with what.
So all the accessories all
the accessories, from the hat, the chemisier, the bag, the shoes when they went off the boat, the headwear, every single thing was decided and organized. And also I found in the paper archive some telegrams in which she asked for more advice. So it was really monitored by Biki and Alain all the way through this dramatic cruise that we all know how it ended. No, 1959. It was quite a year for Maria Callas. All her life changed, and Biki and Alain always stayed with her.
Yes, in fact, Maria Callas dressed Biki until her death in 1977. Okay, here we have a couple of lovely sketches that Alain did for Maria Callas for the collection of day dress in the 50s. And we also have 3 photographs of Maria Callas, actually 2 photographs, of Maria Callas, yes, wearing hats. As you told us before, hats were became very important in Maria Callas' day look. And we have a turban and we have another hat with a net and a flower. And here we go to the famous croquis that you mentioned before. There are 4 examples from the 70s. So let's start from the first one, if you can describe and tell us maybe something about each of them.
It's interesting to see also what Alain has written, and the black one. No, you can see the bow, the head of the Callas, and the silhouette. And he writes, "You didn't ask me long wearing dress, but this one could not resist. I really designed it with Maria Callas in mind, in inverted commas." Yes. So you can't. And he put the sample of the clothes and
the fabric, yes.
The fabric. Sorry, it's really nice. Also,
and the second one, when you told us that she loved the furs, and this is a lovely long dress. Yes.
She adored the furs, and so this is a long dress. And can you see how he portrays the head of Maria? No, there is a lot of love in these drawings, a lot of understanding. And the third one, it's interesting because you have both handwriting, Callas and Alain. They are discussing around the piece, how to make it. And the last one, this is a good Callas big dress. So this is really kind of explaining everything about their relationship.
Yes. And now for the happiness of all the people that they are still with us, we would like to, screen a video of December 1958, which was Callas' debut at Opéra in Paris. And in this concert, Callas, of course, wore Biki, a long red dress with a long shawl. We know that is red, although the video is black and white, because the reviewers, the journalists wrote about this dress that was kind of dramatic. And the jewelry that she's wearing are by diamond jewelry by Van Cleef and Arpels, and that was screened worldwide from Paris. So enjoy the video, and we're going to see each other very, very soon.
this dress, besides being so beautiful, apparently Saint Laurent said, "Oh, I wish I could have made this dress." Concerning this, I would like to end with the words that Biki said about Maria just after her death. She said, "Maria was a delightful creature when it came to dressing her, never a scene, never a gesture of impatience, because she greatly respected other people's work. Did you know she was the one who invented the blue and green together? Even Saint Laurent had a great passion for Callas and would send her huge bouquets of roses. He would have loved to be the one who dressed her, but Maria was always loyal to us."
Well, I have to thank you, Simona, for your deep knowledge and for being here with us tonight. And thank you, Stefano. Thank you for Casa Italiana. Thank you to everybody. And I will see you sometime soon again.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you, everybody.
Ciao. Ciao.
Ciao.